Hello, and thank you for listening to the Moore's October Rant series. And today I wanted to continue or make a part two of the video that I made last summer called Why Arguing Online is Pointless, or something like that. So I want to make a part two, and I want this to just apply to more than just online, just in general. Because, if you're arguing in real life, online is the same thing. I want to make it in general, but so 2024 has started, and it's been pretty good so far. Every year is going to have its ups and downs, but this year just started, so I can't really say that yet. But one of the things that I've realized this year is, it's only January, but I've already realized how important it is to, not care about others' opinion, because if you care about the opinions of others, then, your quality of life is not going to be that great. And that applies to this because if you care so much about the opinions of others, then you're more inclined to argue with them and fight with them and have arguments with them and stuff. And a lot of the time, arguing is pointless. And I said this before, but, I'll give you an example. Say you have a roommate and you guys live together in an apartment, and say you like to cook soup. Say soup is your favorite food. I'm just making up a random food. Say you like to cook soup, and say your other roommate is aggravated because he thinks that you cook the soup too long, and say they're worried that you're going to burn the pan and ruin the pan, and the soup cooks too long. Say you like to make it bubbling. Say you like it really hot and fresh. And the roommate gets upset and wants you to not cook it as long and thinks, whatever. They don't like the way you cook. Your cooking habits, they're annoyed by it. You could sit there and argue with them about why you like the soup the way you want it. Or you could just ignore them and just do your own thing and just not choose to fight back and cause a bunch of arguments with that person about that's not going to lead anywhere, because that person is still going to think how they want to think about how you're cooking the soup that you're making. But, you're going to still think that you're correct, or that there's no big deal about how you're choosing to cook the soup. Everyone has a certain way of how they like to do things and how they like things to be. So arguing with someone or trying to explain to them that they're wrong and that you like the soup the way you like it or whatever, it's not going to change how they feel, That other person's still going to think you're out of your fucking mind and that you're cooking the soup too long, or your cooking habits are fucking annoying or whatever. Some people like food burnt. Some people like food cooked well, Everyone's different. So you're not going to convince them that they're wrong and that your food is fine the way it is. Whatever. It's not worth getting into a huge argument over. And so many people argue about the stupidest things, I used to argue with my parents as a kid, or I should say a teenager, all the time about stupid things. They'd drop me off at the store, and I'd run in and get something, and they would be mad because I took an extra couple of minutes or whatever. And I'm sitting there arguing with them and explaining why it took so long, because sometimes lines can be very long. And, you're explaining why you took so long, and they don't care. They're just mad regardless. They're not actually wondering why you took so long. They just want to complain regardless. They're not actually looking to have a reason or a conversation with it. So, it's pointless. Let them bitch and just, don't say anything back, That's also something I wanted to say, is that when you're arguing with somebody, if you just don't respond, if you just let them argue and let them say what they have to say, the more you just not respond or just, confirm that you understand what they're saying. If you just, okay, sure, yep, okay, yep, cool. If you just do that, like you're more inclined to not argue with them because you're not giving them anything to argue with. There's only an argument if you throw something back. If you just choose to not listen and let them talk to the air and just ignore them, you're way more likely to not really argue and have a fight with them, which is what I'm choosing to do. I'm choosing to ignore people. You know, it gets tiring and you just wind up getting into feuds. And over the last 10 years, I just realized the win-to-lose ratio, it's just not worth it. It's just better to ignore people, you know? And that's what I'm starting to realize is ignoring people is the best route, you know? Like I said, because you're not going to change these people's minds. Like they're not going to listen to your argument and then have a change of heart about everything they think. It's worthless. It's not worth your time to argue with people about stuff like that. And granted, there are things in this world that are really worth arguing about, and there's things in this world that are worth getting upset about. And, you know, there is things, like I said, that are worth arguing about. But why you take so long in the store or how your cooking habits are, these stupid, trivial little things, they are not worth arguing about. And you're going to waste your life arguing about them. And that's what I said to myself for this year is I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to argue about stupid little things. And I've caught myself trying to do it, and then I stopped myself because, you know, it's going to take quite a while for me to get used to it and change a habit because I'm so used to fighting back and, you know, always like sometimes you always have to have something to say back because you just can't let the other person win. But, you know, being quiet is the best like choice because, you know, like you think that you can defeat this person and you feel like even with like mostly family, like you feel like you can talk to these people and talk them out of what they believe. But, you know, like regardless of what you say, like I said, they're going to think what they're going to think. So just move on and just be quiet and just watch what being quiet does. Just be quiet and just acknowledge them and move on and watch how much like your life improves with arguing. Like you won't argue as much anymore if you just don't fight back because there's nothing to win. You know what I mean? Like if you fight back and like, let's say like you get the other person to admit they're wrong, which rarely ever happens, but say like they admit some fault to what they've done. What does that mean? Like you won an argument, big deal. Like it doesn't do anything. It just strokes your ego for like 10 seconds and then you move on. Like who cares? People are so obsessed with winning arguments and trying to be right in every situation. People always want to feel right. But, you know, sometimes you can be right to yourself but wrong to everybody else. You can do everything right in your mind, and there's always going to be someone that they feel it's wrong, you know? I can do everything right in my mind, and my family can tell me what I'm doing is not right and it's wrong, you know? I'm living my life the way I want to live my life, and, you know, my family can argue with me and tell me that the way I'm living my life is not correct. But, you know, all these, there's so many things that you can argue with. There's so many things you can start arguments with, but, you know, people are always going to find fault in what you do. So it's not really worth arguing about. You just got to take things on the chin and just move on, you know. It's not worth the fucking fight. It's not worth the risk of losing friends. You know, because friends fight, friends argue, and, you know, another big aspect about this whole situation I want to talk about is choosing your battles. Like looking at something and realizing if it's worth it or if it's not worth it. And if you actually have to think about it for more than like 30 seconds, it's probably not worth it, you know? Because some fights, like I said, are worth having. But, you know, you have to choose your battles. Because if you just fight every battle, you're going to lose. But, you know, like, you know, in the long run, like I said, winning, losing, it doesn't really matter because people argue all the time. And, you know, you have one argument and then like a day later you'll have another argument. So you're not really winning anything. You know, it's just being right to yourself is something you can do regardless, because when everyone fights, they always think that they're correct and they always think that what they're saying is correct and the other person's wrong. So people like when you fight, like in real life, people have fist fights and sometimes both people think that they won, even though there was a clear winner. Both people think that they're the winner. So, if someone wants to believe that they won an argument, who gives a shit? If they want to think that, then God bless them. You can think that you won, and they can think that they won. Because, I really got to say, in like the long run, none of this is going to fucking matter. Because both of you having the argument, you're both going to die. You're both going to not be alive soon. And everything that you ever talked about, everything that you ever argued about is going to amount to absolutely nothing. And you're going to die, and it's going to be like you never existed. Everything's just going to be erased. That's funny how I said that. Everything is going to be erased, and it's just not going to matter. So, it's kind of like a YOLO situation, You just got to live, and you got to do what you want to do with your life, and stop arguing all the fucking time, people. Just stop arguing. It's worthless. It's not worth your time. It's stupid. And being 30 years old now, almost 31, I've realized how pointless arguing is. And I'm glad that it took me not that long to realize that some people reach their 50s or 60s before they realize that arguing is pointless. But it took me about 10 years, I'd say, to realize that. And that's fine. I've learned, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And I'm trying to change the way I think about things. And I'm trying to change my own mindset. And I'm trying to be more positive and trying to see the upside of everything. And, if someone wants to be negative and argue, that's on them. That's has nothing to do with me. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening to this episode. And I'll make more soon. Thank you.